PPR Tool Time, your industry podcast, tools, reviews, and stories. Welcome to another episode of PPR Tool Time. I'm your host, Daniel Grom, and Vince D'Alessandro, John Renstrom, and we have a special guest in this corner, Paul Kordon.
Paul Kordon, yeah!
And Paul's off the Hail Trail. We wanted to capture him and find out what he learned, what advice he has for guys that want to go on the Hail Trail, thinking about going on the Hail Trail. Newbies, whatnot. What did you learn? How you doing, Paul?
Hey guys, I'm great. I am excited to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, you've been kind of off the scene for a little while. We miss you. We miss your glorious face.
Show up to Wyoming for a little while and then nothing, not even an internet presence afterwards. It's like, man, what'd you do? Get raped by an antelope?
Yeah. Kidnapped by a bear?
Busy working, man. There's actually a lot going on and a lot coming up. I was telling Daniel earlier this week that we were chatting about some things that I've had in the works, and so it's a pretty exciting time.
Save that for the end.
We'll say. Well, just busy, man. Busy with my hand in quite a few different little pots, and actually one of them is for Mobile Tech RX. I'm working with one of Mobile Tech RX's new employees and kind of putting together some stuff that are just going to be kind of a bonus for everybody who's signing on to it, and it's been fun, so it's good.
You went on the Hail Trail. Tell us what you learned.
Well, I learned that I'm definitely not the fastest or the best hail guy. That's for sure. But I had a really good experience getting to work with guys that were faster and better than me, getting to meet a whole bunch of really, really cool people, work in some really cool places. And
isn't that a humbling experience when you're like, you think you're a really good dent guy, you think you got this, and then you go work against some veterans, and they're doing 2 cars to your 1 year.
But Paul is a veteran though. You know, it's just different.
Oh, it still doesn't matter. It's you're coming from retail shop world into the fast pace of the Hail Trail, and it's very different. You kind of gotta it takes me about a week or so to get into like a hail storm, and figure out get my pace and all that stuff. But it was great being around guys. I mean, guys are really they were really gracious to me, so I can't complain. I could have worked with a bunch of jerks, but
there was one thing, Paul. I recall you telling me last year at MTE that you weren't going to go past the Mississippi, was it?
Yeah, that was my plan. I did not want to work west of the Mississippi, and my first hailstorm, I ended up in Idaho Falls for about 2 months.
Idaho Falls. Where the hell is Idaho Falls? I don't even know where Idaho is.
It's right near Canada and Washington.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm not
up in the Panhandle, right?
It's way up there, man. But it was definitely a great place to experience.
They have cars up there, huh?
Though.
There's cars up there. Huh?
What's that?
There's cars up there?
They got cars.
They fixed both of them.
Oh.
All 2 of them.
They're not like riding around on caribou and mooses or meese? Yeah. What's the plural for moose? Meese?
Yeah, meese.
It was we had a great time actually. So there was still snow on the ground when I got there. That was the beginning of April I started working, and I spent 2 months there. Worked for a really great guy at a local company, and man, we just had a blast.
So set the scenario for us. Are you working in a body shop, a dealership? What kind of work environment?
So this year I experienced a retail shop, and then dealership work, basically wholesale work. One of those was working at the dealer, for the local guy, really at the dealer. And then the other one was working dealer work at the local guy's retail space. So I had a mix of both retail and wholesale this year. But probably to most people's surprise, the best paying gig that I worked this year was actually a wholesale gig. ended up negotiating the deal and really getting the numbers right. So
that was a pretty kick-ass though retail or wholesale gig.
Yeah.
And
but
it was great. But there was a lifetime of relationship between that parent company and the dealership too.
Yep.
I tell you,
very well.
When I heard the numbers you guys were cranking out up there, I was like, "What the hell?" Every time I do a wholesale gig, it's crap. It sucks.
The right people on the team, buddy.
So this is one of the things. So we're going to have 2 more episodes with Paul on, and Paul's going to get into that part of it, John, and kind of share what he learned in that process and why he was getting those numbers that he was getting. And so we'll save that for later. Today we're just trying to find out, if you guys are out there thinking about going on the Hail Trail, how do you prepare? And that's what this show is really about.
Well, let me set the scene a little bit here, because not everyone knows who Paul Kordon is. So, Paul, you were a retail and wholesale technician in Virginia, just out of D.C., right?
Correct.
And for how many years?
Well, so I spent 19 years with a local company here.
Right. So this was your first time leaving that company.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So my goal was I wanted to become an independent technician and eventually start my own business.
Yeah.
And so one of the steps to that for me was transitioning and using the Hail Trail as a transitioning point. My goal is not to be a full-time hail chaser for the rest of my life, but I wanted to use the Hail Trail as number one, a transition, and also number two, an option for revenue.
Sure.
So when I get called to the storms that are worth it, then I take that opportunity, I go do it, and then keep building businesses at home. So what I did, I spent the first about 8-9 years as a wholesale tech on the route, handling dealers and body shops, cut my teeth on quite a bit that way. And then the last, I would say the last about 9-10 years I've spent in the retail world, finally in a shop for the last 6 years or so, just doing retail work, a lot of highline cars, a lot of specialty stuff, a lot of smash work, and a lot of negotiation and sales with customers and insurance companies. And out of that was where that scenario is the reason, that scene is really the reason why, I should say the setting, is why the price guide ended up kind of being born. I needed it, and I wanted to make good money for the work that I was doing, the time that I was spending. So that's where the price guide came from, and that's kind of the big thing I think that I'm most guys know me for, is the retail price guide. And then that got married into Mobile Tech RX, and it really started to become available to everybody. And so that's kind of my story. I went from being a retail tech on April 8th of this year to April 9th getting the call to fly 7 hours west to Idaho Falls, and hung out there for 2 months.
No, that was my birthday, April 8th. So, good things happen on April 8th.
Isn't that something when it comes to the Hail Trail? It's like nothing to do. Oh my God, I got like 2 hours to get 1,800 miles away. And if I'm not there in 24 hours, I lose my spot.
Yeah, no, it literally, I mean, April 8th, they called me. I think I knew that I needed to be there by a certain date. And I ended up finding out what my last day was. I spent the next day doing some quick shopping, packing everything up, get everything arranged. And then, man, I was on a flight two mornings from that last day. So
tell me so you land and you get there and you set up and you're like, oh my God, I don't have.
Well, it actually starts before that. So since a lot of guys drive to their hailstorms, and of course, if I stayed east of the Mississippi, I would be able to pretty much drive anywhere I needed to. Well, that didn't happen. So the first thing I found out was I was going to need to fly tools out there. And my brother's been a hail tech for probably 17 years, and he said, "Here's the deal. Here's what I use. This is what you probably need to look at." So the first place I went was Dick's Sporting Goods, and I bought a hard shell golf case, luggage, and then had to figure out how to retrofit as much as I could into that without going over 70 pounds.
Yeah.
So that was the first tool that I needed was a golf bag.
Okay, so you can't go over 70 pounds to fly.
Well, it's
bag.
interesting. It depends on
In one bag.
That's another thing I learned was, you could buy a coach class ticket, but that's not at that price. It's not going to include your luggage. And then when you go to fly 140 pounds of tools, it gets expensive really quick. So I did some math and I found out that it was actually just a bit cheaper to buy a first class ticket, and you get up to 2 70-pound bags checked for free. So
actually, I learned that going to MTE one year, and on the way back, because I bought so many tools, it was cheaper for me to fly first class.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I did. I mean, honestly, it's kind of my wife kind of rolled her eyes and was like, "Oh, poor you. You got to fly first class." But I'll tell you what, if you're flying for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, it makes a big difference, I think, just in your general comfort. But in this case, it actually made financial sense to do it. So
Sure.
I got me.
It just ruins you for the future.
Yeah, it does.
Can't
man.
sit in the cattle car class anymore.
It makes those trips tough. But
So, did you have to rent a car once you got there? I've never flown to a hailstorm. I've driven every hailstorm, and I've driven as much as 1,100 miles in a single day.
Ugh.
yeah. So I mean, theoretically, yes, I would have had to rent a car. It just so happens that first storm that I flew to, there were 2 guys that were already on the ground, one who had driven and one who had rented a car already. And they were like, "Don't rent a car. We've got cars. We'll just come and get you." We're all staying at the same hotel and stuff. So I honestly got through that whole first storm without having to rent a car, which was really cool. And I got to be honest. I mean, that's that part of it, the camaraderie with the hail guys, and the fact that if they've got tools that you don't have and you need them, you just come and take them off their cart. As long as you're responsible and you return them, and they
I've
really
had 3 techs working out of my hail cart before.
And let me ask you this, Paul: where did you meet these hail guys?
So the first 2 guys that I worked with at that first storm, one was Shane Jacks and one was Tony Antonelli. And those,
And where'd you meet those guys?
I met them through MTE and through
At MTE.
That's right. That's true.
So if you never went to MTE, you would have never got this gig.
That is definitely, I would say that's definitely true.
Okay.
Although you can't discount the internet and Facebook.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We
they
did
wouldn't have hired you unless they got to know you.
That's true. I really do believe that. I believe that. So it was actually a great experience working with Shane and Tony. I'll tell you what, that brings up another good point. Something that I learned is that it's very easy on the internet to make judgments until you've met people and spent some time with them, and people are just not what you think they are. So I'd say, just to remind everybody, a cliche is, don't judge a book by its cover. But I had a great experience working with those guys. Shane and Tony were super, super cool, really easygoing, great techs, just a good opportunity to work with them. And then later on, we.
So what are you saying? Shane is really a bad guy in person? He's not conceited or stuck up?
Yeah. Shane. No. No, I'm just, you don't know what to, like, I only knew Tony through the interactions on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I really didn't have any particular opinion of Tony. And I knew Shane prior to that from the events. But I was blown away at how easy it was to, spend time and get along with these guys and just work side by side with them, not really knowing them, but having the common bond of PDR and being technicians and all kind of knowing that end of the business. So we kind of quickly worked out how we were going to pull everything and partner up, and it was a really good experience. It was great team.
Something like that is like a birds of a feather flock together. You were surrounded by good technicians, good businessmen. So that makes a big difference. I know my uncle once said to me, the one thing that my uncle said to me when I was younger that always stuck in my brain is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
Yeah.
So I always kind of walk into situations like that and kind of gauge it and size people up a little bit to see if I'm in the right room. Am I surrounding myself with the right people? And it sounds like you definitely, started your first gig in the right room.
Well, and that's a high stress environment. So a bad apple gets found fast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And but they can drag down an entire storm. And if you get a solid crew together that clicks, oh brother, it's magic. It's magic.
Yeah, listen, I'd love to. I'm just going to repeat exactly what John just said. That one person on the team could really affect the entire operation. But when you do get the right people in the right positions on the team, I mean, it can be just exponentially better than you even think it could be. So that's a really huge point. And just making sure you get the right people on the bus, and find people that you work with that you have a synergy with. If you have to force it, if it's too hard to kind of get to that point, it oftentimes may not be the right connection, the right people in the right positions. But I was fortunate enough to be able to be part of a really excellent team, and I give a lot of credit to those guys.
And it's not just it's also on a personal level too, because you're like in bed with these guys for a month, 2 months, or whatever. You want to make sure your personalities click. It's kind of a fraternity type of situation where you're.
I agree. I think so much of that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, down to these are guys that it's kind of a funny. It's funny because one of the things I thought of was it reminded me a little bit of the show Survivor, in that, in a way, you're all independent. So you've got you've got your independent goals, and you've got your independent, desire to make connections and to be liked and to like people and to, and to perform well. But then you've got this team aspect, especially in that scenario where you're working as a team. So you want to do whatever it takes to make the team win. And so you've got to kind of walk that balance. And sometimes you just got to put yourself and your own personal independent desires and, goals aside for the good of the team. And just learn how to, quite frankly, be honest, and have integrity and character, in that situation, even when all the guys aren't watching or when you're not with them.
Yeah.
Things like being careful not to throw people under the bus with your words, and or challenge somebody in front of a local guy you're working for, and make it look like there's no cohesiveness or team.
Sure, because the reality is everyone's away from home. They're away from home. They're away from their families. So you become the family. You become your own family.
Yeah. True. But in that type of situation too, when you got that right crew, everybody inspires. It's nothing said. It's nothing gone out of your way to do, but man, they all inspire each other to work harder, and you work because you sit there and you all have that same mindset. I don't want to be the one to drag my partners down. I don't want to drag my partners down. I can't disappoint these guys. And all of you, the whole team ends up pushing better numbers, doing faster, cleaner repairs. Everybody's over checking each other. And if you miss a spot and another guy walks by and grabs it, nobody gets upset because you might be the one to grab that spot the next time.
Yeah. Well, I got a great example of that. So my position on that particular team in Idaho Falls ended up being, I was the guy that was writing the estimates, circling the damage, talking to the adjusters when they came in, and making sure that the numbers, really, we got the numbers that we needed on these cars. And there were a couple of days where I wouldn't even push a first dent until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because I had been writing estimates and on the phone and with adjusters in person. And man, I felt horrible. I felt like I'm not pulling my weight, and I expressed that to the guys because they were all really open, easygoing, and they were like, listen, man, you got to understand that unless you're doing what you're doing, we can't do what we're doing. You're part of the team. Your position that you're playing is just as important as the other two of us back here pushing on metal. So don't feel bad about it. We totally understand what's going on. We get it. And that's your forte. So you go do that part. And then when you're freed up, you come back here and push metal, and we're good. It's okay with us. So
let me ask you this, Paul. Did you surprise them at the numbers you're getting?
Yes. Yeah. I think I did. I think we ended up getting really strong numbers. And we ended up getting, there were a number of scenarios where we did quite a few pickup trucks. I'm sure you're surprised by that up in Idaho, but quite a few pickup trucks. And with pickup trucks, we had stuff like you got to pull the back glass out, and you got to pull this guy's welder out of the back of his truck. So you got to charge the insurance company something for that. And
racks off, pull the box out.
I had to argue some of these things with adjusters who were just telling me they weren't going to pay it. And I just hung in there, and we politely kind of fought it out, and we won. We got our back glasses out, and we were trying to be smart. We were taking pictures for proof, and we were showing everybody what we needed to do and what we were actually doing in order to fix these cars. We had a couple of insurance companies who wanted us to take pictures after we had R&I'd something and then submit it so that they can approve it and then reimburse us for it or pay us for that particular R&I item. And then we even had one situation, we had a gentleman who was pretty picky at a newer Toyota Tundra. And when you step on the thresholds in the doors, when guys are working on a roof, they scratched up the thresholds, and his car was a little newer and he was pretty upset. And I said, well, listen, I understand, sir. I said, I'll talk to the insurance company. We'll see if we can get that covered for you. And the insurance company, the guy on the phone said, absolutely not. We're not paying for thresholds. That's not part of the operation that you need to fix the car. And I said, listen, sir, I said, we're on the ground here. We're the ones doing the work. I think it should be us telling you what we need to do in order to fix this appropriately. So I said, this was a necessary operation in order to repair this particular vehicle. In this case, we had thresholds that got scratched up, and this gentleman needs them replaced. And he said, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I said, okay, sir, I'd like to speak to your supervisor. He said, well, I can't give you his number, but I'll have him call you. So that's fine. Here's my number. Have him call me. So the next morning, the shop gets a call, and they put me on the phone, and it happens to be that same adjuster. And he said, hey, I spoke with, I'm glad I got you. He said, I spoke with my supervisor, and I wanted to tell you personally that I was wrong and you were right. We're going to give you those thresholds, those floor sales. So I said, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your being a stand-up guy and wanting to correct yourself, correct, the record for me. And that was it. So we got the thresholds covered. But what we did was we decided to make a game time decision. And from
how
that
much was the thresholds?
Oh, they didn't tell me, but I have to imagine it wasn't cheap. It's you know what I'm talking about. It basically are the plastic, trim pieces that go over the threshold in the doors.
A couple $100.
I would imagine, but I'll tell you, I'll give you a great example. We had to make what I learned from that was we needed to be careful on trucks, how we were functioning with those. And so on the next storm, we ended up getting on a wholesale gig, getting them to include some money per car to crash wrap the thresholds and the lift gate, the lift gate opening on the SUVs.
Huh. I remember you posting
into that. Yeah. I mean, at least we're getting paid for the $80 roll of crash wrap and the time that it takes to crash wrap those things and protect the inside, especially on new vehicles.
Yeah.
Was that a Tundra or a Tacoma?
That was a Tundra. That was a Tundra that we worked. It was that we ended up getting the thresholds replaced on, and it was a fairly new body style. I want to say a 17, maybe an 18.
What are you doing, John? Are you making notes?
Just look them up real quick.
Oh.
See what those puppies cost.
So you ended up getting those. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and this whole time for me, I'm learning. I'm going, hey, what do we need to get better at? What do we need to justify more? What kind of proof do we need? What kind of resources do we need? And I had a few intense moments with a few adjusters. I had one adjuster who told me that she was a PDR estimating expert. And I just looked at her in the face and I said, with all due respect, ma'am, you are not a PDR estimating expert. And if anybody can call themselves a PDR estimating expert, it would be those of us who are doing the work. It'd be those of us who know what the actual operations are. And she didn't like that too much. But we ended up getting our numbers. So,
yeah, you just questioned your
retail costs on those is $132 a scuff plate.
There you go.
From Toyota.
There you go. So if they so when we got what we priced the crash wrapping at was $15 a sill and $30 for a gate, which increased the number on the car by $90 a car. And I'm sure the insurance company, if you negotiate with them and you tell them that, hey, would you rather spend $90 a car to protect these sills, or would you rather spend $130 a sill to replace them? I think it's a no-brainer, but you've got to convince them that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of medicine. So,
just out of curiosity, how were you scratching them?
Yeah,
by standing on them. So out here in the Midwest, it's a little dirtier.
Yeah.
than back east.
Drier.
And it's a lot drier. So the actual dirt has more of a sand type compound into it, so it falls into the soles on your shoes pretty easy, and it's real easy to scuff them up.
Okay.
I mean, they are just easy plastic when you're standing on them.
We were using, quick benches and stools and things like that, but
You still step up on there.
we all know that there are times when you've got to get that one angle and you have to open the door and step into it a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. You're just doing it.
Gates off the car, and you've got 1 foot in the car and 1 foot on your stool. So
Yeah.
stuff like that happens. But
So let me ask you this. So you get there and you're starting to do PDR. Now, what tools did you realize you didn't have?
That was what I wanted to ask too.
So believe it or not, I think a few of the tools. Well, I'll just tell you. One thing that I found really handy, really quick, was a good set of noise canceling Bluetooth headphones. So and partially because sometimes you got a shop full of guys that are all tapping at the same time, and it's just loud. Secondly, it helps me to focus on what I'm doing and not get distracted in conversations when I got my headphones on and I'm listening to some, a book or music or whatever. So that was actually a pretty big deal. It sounds silly. It's not an actual tool for pushing.
No, I totally agree.
It is a helpful tool when you're in
Did you get the Bose X3 or whatever they are?
I got the Quiet Comforts, the 35s, I think.
The Sonys?
They run about $350. Bose makes them.
Yeah, the Bose. Yeah, those are badass, right?
They're really effective. They're really, really effective. So that was an important tool. So I picked one of those up. My first trip back home, I got a set and had them ready for the rest of the storms. One of the things that I definitely wish that I had that I didn't have was a hot box. I think a hot box and quite frankly an aluminum hot box would have been extremely helpful. But I waver. I have them at the shop. I didn't have them on me at the time because I go, man, you got to ship those out. They're pretty heavy, So you go, oh, do I take the chance that
Pretty
somebody
fragile.
didn't have one and I just use theirs, or do I actually ship mine out and then ship them back? So I had a couple of scenarios where, I borrowed somebody else's, and but that was definitely an invaluable tool in certain situations.
Yeah.
Which one is more valuable?
The aluminum one.
The aluminum one. Okay.
Yeah. It was surprisingly more effective than the steel one was.
That's not surprising. I get that.
Hoods that should have gone to the body shop because of the aluminum hot box.
How severe was the hail?
I'd say the Idaho storm was pretty. It was pretty solid work. I think we probably averaged anywhere from, maybe $4,000 to $7,000 cars, retail, and a lot of aluminum hoods. Especially on the trucks. So yeah, I mean, a couple cars that got up to $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. But on average, I'd say we were between like 4 and 7-ish. So somewhere around there. One of the highlights was, and you guys probably saw this post, but we had a deck lid, and we had a deck lid from a Camry. One of the dents was about 4 or 5 inches wide, and this Camry had about $600 worth of hail on it. Outside of that 1 4 or 5 inch dent, and there's nothing on the matrix to account for that one dent. So what I did was I marked it out, and I used the retail pricing guide for that in Mobile Tech RX, the price of dent, and we put about $430 on that one dent. And when the adjuster came, we explained why and how we got to the price and
what
why.
panel was this on?
This was on a deck lid on the Camry. So our total bill on that was just over $1,000, and they approved it. They gave us that $430 for that large, double, triple.
So why did they give you that when? What was the cost of replacing it and painting it then?
I don't remember.
Toyota one's probably around 15 to 16, depending upon the blend of the color.
Yeah.
And if it has the model with the quarter glass, that has to be cut out. And that depends on which year it is for Toyotas.
Yeah, when you're dealing with blending into the quarter panels and stuff like that for color match on a silver or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was just it was a highlight moment for us, for me. And I had actually had that. I'd had insurance companies approve that before on hail cars. So
I don't get any kicks back on.
Well, there's quite frankly,
I've been doing it all summer.
no way to estimate that damage.
There isn't.
So, in my mind, the natural thing to do is go from the matrix, which doesn't have anything that covers that kind of damage, to the retail price of dent, which does. That's exactly what it was designed for. So the trick was really just convincing them that that's that's the right price for that dent and why we need that price, and we got it. So that was cool.
Funny, I get a call immediately about a $200 extreme oversize upcharge, but I pull it out of the hail matrix, throw it into price of dent, charge $600 plus through price of dent. Don't even get a phone call. Just a check shows up and an approval email.
Now, was that damage part of hail damage, or is it just a pre-existing damage that you have to repair because you're not going to leave a big dent?
No, that was all part of hail.
Okay, what if it was pre-existing damage? Would they cover that?
Odds are no.
Odds are no. Yeah, okay.
Not at that price. Now, I've had them, oh, no, we'll just include that little door dent, and that is fine. But if it's larger than a 50-cent piece, they're like, unrelated prior damage, mark it.
Don't fix
photograph it, and we're not paying it.
Okay.
Yeah. So so that was the noise canceling headphones. The aluminum hot box was extremely valuable.
Now, what hail rod do you have?
I used I have everything from Carbon Tech. I use all the Carbon Tech stuff, and I will tell you that I don't know how people do hail without it, in my opinion. And that includes the Never Loose. Man, I'll tell you what, I saw a couple guys who didn't have the Never Loose, and they fought with their lights 5 times as much as I did with mine.
Yeah.
And what lights are you using?
I use the Pro PDR 46s, the Chubby HDs on their LS3 stands, and the Never Loose mount. And quite frankly, while I was there, guys got to see it and kind of try it, and we sold a few of the Never Loose, and I think I sold a couple of Carbon Tech hood stands too, because I got to work side by side with a couple of other hood stands, and for me, it certainly was absolutely, for me, it was the best hood stand to work off of. It was just super light, folded up, and I mean, I could just move around it and work it so quickly, so it was nice.
Yeah, it's easy up, easy down. The only thing that I found that it's a little more cumbersome than some of the hard ones was on deck lids, and it didn't take me very long to figure out which one of my little plastic tool cases held the latch into the deck lid up perfectly.
Oh, you just wait, John. Paul. There is a new product coming out that's going to be released at MTE that's going to blow your minds when it comes to latching down hoods and deck lids, and for that matter, doors as well. Daniel and myself have been testing it out for the last couple of weeks.
I see how you are.
I wonder if it's what I've been testing out for the last couple of weeks.
It might be. Paul might have one too.
Secret, so I can't tell you.
See it at MTE.
Yeah. At the Anson booth, Anson will be the exclusive distributors for that tool. So, John, I'm sure you're probably getting one in the mail soon if you haven't gotten one.
There's also another tool.
I could have used it while I had doors off.
Yeah. That's going to be an exclusive with Anson as well. That's going to help hail guys tremendously. But I don't know the details of. But it'll be there at MTE, I'm sure. That guys are going to love.
Listen to this. Listen to all this.
There's going to be some great stuff.
Mobile Tech's got some secrets, but we can't tell you about them either.
Yeah.
Since we're all just pointing stuff out that we can't talk about.
MTE this year is going to be really great. We're going to have a new venue,
so.
Bigger and better. I'm excited.
Well, we're heading into show season right now. This weekend, this podcast will already air, but Dent Trainer will have already had theirs. John, you're heading there. We're recording this on a Tuesday. John's heading there in the next couple days. And
I
then
fly out Wednesday morning.
There's SEMA. There's a lot of PDR guys going to SEMA this year, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, me and Vince are going to SEMA, and we're going to hopefully be able to post a lot of cool stuff that we see there.
Yeah.
So look forward to that on our Facebook page.
Yep. You got the PDR.
MTRX will be there as well.
Oh, wonderful. We'll stop there. You got the PDR Olympics in Branson coming up. That's coming up in December as well, December 8th, that weekend. And there's a whole bunch of Christmas parties going on worldwide. So there's
That got huge.
a lot of opportunities for you guys. If you can't make it, there's probably something local or within a couple 100 miles of you. Go and meet some other PDR technicians and network, kind of like what Paul is talking about, the networking and Daniel's touched on. If you can't make it to MTE, you know what? That's okay. There's other shows going on where you can meet other guys and network as well. There'll
be a lot more shows next year. I think they're stepping up a little bit. And don't forget, everybody, MTE is earlier this year than it has been in the last few years.
Second week in January.
Second week in January this year. So if you haven't looked into it, you might want to double check that time and don't wait too long.
Yeah.
So before we run out of time here, Paul, what did you find that you really needed on the Hail Trail? What did you want that you saw maybe some other guys using that you're borrowing, or what? Give us a little insight of
pictures of your wife,
what you're going to buy.
You got to give me a second here to think. I would definitely.
That was a long time ago.
I mean, honestly, I would definitely say the hot box is one of them for sure.
Did you have the tequila tools?
I had some tequila tools. I was absolutely thrilled with the tabs.
Mm-hmm.
You mean the blades? The
hand tools. What are they? 7/16?
No,
7/32.
No, the 7/32. No, he wouldn't have had those. Those just came out.
Yeah,
in the
those
last
came
month.
out late in the summer.
Okay.
The
big set.
Todd Zimmerman from Carbon Tech had a set at the last summer I was working with him, but he was working with a unique set. They had a slightly different bend on them.
Yeah.
That he was working with Craig about, and I only got to kind of see them from a glance. I think I might have used one. I was really impressed. I was really happy with it. I was kind of hoping that they would kind of figure out what that final bend was going to be, and then snag a set of those. I would like a set of those.
The 7/32 are frigging amazing.
I'll tell you this. I did use your hog glue. I was very happy with the hog glue because I thought it was the closest. I'm a tab weld guy, and it was, in my opinion, easily as good as the tab weld. It was hard for me to tell the difference between the two sometimes, to be honest with you. The other thing I used that was really helpful to me was, and I was surprised, was the Excalibur pick set. I used those quite a bit. So that was helpful. But as far as tools that I wish that I had, I would definitely say the aluminum hot box is one. I wish that I could travel with more than one light, but it gets really expensive to try to fly two lights. I'd say go ahead.
On that note, so you're talking about flying to your first storm now. How many different storms did you hit this year?
I worked 3 storms this year, one in Idaho Falls, one in Gillette, Wyoming, and then one in Casper, Wyoming.
Okay.
And so those were the 3.
Now, did you fly to the Wyoming storms?
I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did you try to fly with your tools, or did you try to ship them there first?
I flew with them.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
now, did you have a mini light too that you had?
I did. I actually like the way I made it work was I had one big light and a mini light. I did everything with that, and then I pretty much there are a lot of things that I didn't travel with. Like I didn't travel with a battery. I didn't travel with a stool. I'd go and buy that stuff when I was there, and then just gift it to the local company when I was gone. Just trying to think. I tried to travel as light as possible because I didn't know. I was nervous about overpacking. So I traveled and kept it really light. And what I found out was that there are a lot of tools that I could have brought and probably wanted to bring, but they would have been tools that are really common that almost every technician has. And so far, from what I've noticed, I mean, guys have no problem sharing their tools. So if there was something I needed, I usually went over to another guy's cart and grabbed it and used it and then put it back. So that's where I'm torn, because if I were a technician who was driving, I'd certainly bring everything I had. But because I flew, I was keeping it light. And the guys who did drive were always like, "Oh man, don't bring that stuff. Just use mine." So that was really helpful. And It's
I have 3 lights and a mini light now, and you're talking about 1 light. I'm like, oh, I'd have a heart attack, man, if I had less than 2 lights
But that's the difference between a new guy and a veteran like yourself, John. Driving a motorhome.
Yeah, I've been driving. So we hit on what we're going to talk about on one of the future episodes, how you got the money, how you helped on the wholesale gigs. Episode 3, are we going to discuss how you lived on the road?
I lived in a hotel. It was really boring.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole house is on the road. My whole life was all about chasing hail.
Yeah.
So my wife goes with me. We outfitted our RV to be our house, and now I'm listening to you talking about flying to a storm and picking and choosing, and I'm thinking, man, my RV's got its own wardrobe. I don't even swap my clothes when I go back to my other house.
Yeah.
There's times where I'm in my house, and I'm like, crap, the good stuff's in the bus.
Yeah.
So we got like a couple minutes left. Let's tease a little bit about what's coming up. What do you want to share with people that you're gonna lay on them?
So I have been working I've been working in a partnership with 2 other guys, and we are developing some new business models. We've been implementing one, and before we went public, we wanted to make sure that not only the business model, we wanted to make sure the theory was actually successful in practice. So we've been practicing one new business model, and then we've got another business model that's in the works, and we'll definitely be unveiling that at MTE. But we definitely want to, hype it up a little bit before we get there. So guys who are interested are going to be ready to go and kind of.
So you're going to be teaching this on Education Day, correct?
I don't know yet, actually. I'm not sure what the schedule for that is.
When you say Education Day, what are you talking about, Daniel, for our listeners?
Thursday.
MTE.
Okay.
MTE educational seminars that they do.
PDR Nation has had me speak a couple of years in a row, and I don't know yet. I mean, it's they haven't contracted me for any certain amount of years, so it doesn't matter. They may or may not want me there, but I'm available, and I'm happy to help out.
MTRX has a classroom for all afternoon.
Right on. Yep.
Because we're going to be, we got a lot of stuff to unveil and go through. So we will have a classroom for 4 hours. So if you don't have a spot, you can probably slip in and we can pimp some time, give my voice a rest.
I'll probably be there anyway, and I have a lot I can say about MTRX. I'm a pretty big fan.
Can I go there and do some practicing?
Say it again.
I want to do some practicing public speaking, John. Can I come in there and even if there's like one person there, I just need to practice speaking in public.
Yeah,
you're practicing now, buddy.
Oh. Well, this is just a conversation between 4 dent guys. This is easy.
Nobody else will hear this.
Yeah,
a few thousand other people.
No one.
Well, that's exciting, Paul. Paul's giving me a little bit more insight in what he's actually creating, and I'm excited about it because, Paul has a unique way of selling our industry, and he does it masterfully. And just the fact that he could sell anybody on drilling a hole is really all you have to say about that. Yeah. Manufacturer access.
I did try that the other day, by the way.
Oh, I've got Tony. That's all she says now is, oh yeah, we can do a manufacturer access point here. Yeah. And at first she hated that. She thought, no, we're lying to people. She hated it and she fought me. Now she says it on a regular basis, and I caught her the other day saying it, and I'm like, finally got her, man.
Well, I told that to a body shop, the body shop managers. All the estimators were in one room, and I was talking about manufactured access holes. They laughed me out of that building, man. They're like, you're nuts.
I got a class of 26 new adjusters from across the country for Geico coming in next Wednesday for a demo. And I'm going to pull it on them and see what they say.
Yeah. Hey,
You can say it with a straight face.
yeah. Well, here's the kicker. They paid $15 for the manufactured access hole, even though they laughed me out of the building.
Not a manufacturer asshole. Access. It's just manufacturer access.
Yeah.
No hole.
No, not. I left out the whole part.
Leave out the hole. You don't want to be the hole.
No.
Good stuff.
Well, cool.
You guys are making me wish I'd carry a drill bit now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't bring one because I was nervous somebody would laugh at me, so I borrowed the guy's thing.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, who's this episode, Daniel? Who's this episode sponsored by this time?
This episode is brought to you by Mobile Tech RX, Hog Glue, and Magnatech Mat.
And most importantly,
Edgy Tools.
Edgy Tools for the 15% discount. Go to PDR Tool Time.
Echo?
Oh, sorry. I could do it again. Ready? Ready? Edgy Tools for the 15% discount.
Guys, go buy the knocker.
Yeah.
In fact, if you just buy one, you're going to hate yourself because you're going to want 2 or 3. You're going to want one for the hammer, one for your knockdown, and one just as a backup.
Touch.
You should lose one. So,
Well, you were talking about earlier liking a flat. Have you used the edgy knocker?
I haven't. I've been around guys who have, but I do have. I have a couple of tips that are similar to that.
No, you don't.
Not quite.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I'll tell you what
No,
I've actually done. You want a little tool tip? I'll tell you what I've been using. So I use a little Beatsmith chasing hammer. It's a metal head. It's about 4.5 ounces. And I used to have to polish the head, the flat tip over and over again. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to throw a layer of clear bra over that flat dome. And well, that's an oxymoron. It's not a flat if it's a dome. So that dome. And the clear bra has worked awesome. It still has the same effect on the metal, except it never catches debris, so you never have to polish it, and it adds just a touch of softness to the contact.
Now, do you think that would work on your Craftsman hammer as well?
I don't own a Craftsman, and I never will, and you know exactly why.
Now, when you cut that little hole,
actually, that's not true. You do have one.
Yeah, you got an award.
It's on a plaque.
Oh, that's the only place it will ever be.
Now, when you cut out that little chunk of clear bra, did you charge them $15 for manufacturing the access point
the circle?
on that clear bra?
Right, I did. Hey, man.
All right, well, go to tooltime.com and click on the Edgy Tools 15% off and order you a knocker.
Yeah. It helps you and it helps us here at PDR Tool Time. Yeah. What's that, Paul?
I said send it to me and I'll clear bra it for you for $15.
There you go.
No, I got to get one though. I've heard good things about it from a number of people.
It really is
that
killer tool.
Now I get 15% off. Boom.
Yeah.
So
all right, guys, I think that brings us to the end of our episode. And what do we say, John?
Don't do stupid stuff.
Level up your tools.
And I still got to come up with something.
This has been another episode of PDR Tool Time.